Good evening, I'm Keith Kate.
I'm Jennifer Lee. Thank you for joining us tonight. We now know the names of the 7 people killed Tuesday in Sarasota. We are also learning more about the man suspected of committing the mass murder.
News Channel 8's Ryan Arbogast has the latest from outside the Amberley community.
The investigation began in Fort Lauderdale and ended here in Sarasota. 7 victims, a mass murder killing spree going all the way from South Florida to the Tampa Bay area that we can now call a murder-suicide. Investigators first being tipped off by a newly released 911 call.
I think my neighbor's been shot.
It was an afternoon full of murder in a gated Sarasota community Tuesday. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office swarming a house in the Amberley neighborhood after this call to police.
Oh my God.
Investigators and first responders first working to save the owner of the home.
I don't know. I heard a loud boom earlier and I thought somebody dropped something. And then I just walked outside and my neighbor Tony is laying on the ground. His house is open and there's blood all over his stomach.
Inside the doors, deputies finding 4 more victims. 2 men and 2 women.
Do you see any weapons? No, ma'am, but there's blood everywhere. I don't see any weapons.
Local law enforcement says they believe the shooting spree is linked to a double homicide at this home in Fort Lauderdale. Police in South Florida responding to a wellness check around the same time as the scene, finding another man and woman dead. That family was seen grieving, while neighbors in our area are still shocked.
Very tragic of what happened, and honestly can't believe that it happened in our community just because of how it's gated and never really had any violence of any kind here since.
Both departments releasing the names of those killed by suspected murderer Russell Cott late Wednesday. 2 of those who lost their lives in Sarasota running this business nearby, the Osprey Polyclinic. The clinic CEO saying he is absolutely devastated. Cott is believed to have ended his own life at the Sarasota home after shooting all 6 victims.
Is he awake? No, ma'am. He looks unconscious and is he breathing? I don't believe he's breathing. I'm not feeling a pulse.
The next step in this process is for investigators to figure out a motive. Local law enforcement tell us the suspect had no history of mental illness or violence. Reporting in Sarasota tonight, Ryan Arbogast, 8 on your side.
Dennis Franks was with the FBI for 22 years and has been following this case closely. He pointed out things in the surveillance video that the untrained eye would not pick up on.
The fact that the video was accessible is remarkable.
Dennis Franks has watched this recently released video multiple times and says it could be the key to solving this case.
But there are people out there that are going to recognize the facial hair that from the images. They're going to recognize maybe the clothing, something.
He says people need to be looking at the stocking cap, type of coat, gloves worn, anything to help narrow down the person's appearance.
What I found is really odd is the way the gun was positioned, right in front, right. I've never seen that before. I'm not sure if it's inexperience, if there's a purpose for it.
The veteran FBI agent says usually these investigations start with a neighborhood canvass and then investigators and agents follow every lead they have. Something Franks mentioned to me is that he doesn't think just one person could have pulled this off.
I think it's highly unlikely that the person seen on the doorbell camera acted alone. It's very difficult to carry, someone.
And he says taking Nancy Guthrie was risky.
That is a mystery why Miss Guthrie was the one who was picked, and especially if they had any inkling that she has the health problems, because that just complicates it.
Every time he has worked a kidnapping case, he tells me it's just impossible to put yourself in the family's shoes.
It has gut-wrenching, it's agonizing, it's, you try to be hopeful, and there are going to be peaks and valleys.
Frank says someone out there knows something, and as the investigation continues, a lot is going to depend on the information coming from the public. In Tampa, I'm Alessandra Young, 8 on your side.
Former Navy SEAL used to risking his life for others is now fighting to recover after a devastating crash in Polk County.
4 people were killed and 7 others injured when 5 cars collided near Lake Wales. News Channel 8's George MacArthur spoke with his wife about his recovery.
Michael Owings' family tells us that he is a warrior, a soldier that was part of the prestigious SEAL Team 6, used to saving people, but now is on the receiving end of it. Michael Owings' wife, Tara, says he was airlifted from Lake Wales to Osceola Regional Medical Center after a deadly 5-car crash last week.
He suffered broken ribs, collapsed lung. He's having surgery on his right wrist tomorrow. And he had multiple internal injuries and internal bleeding.
Deputies say Owings was driving a Toyota Tacoma when a chain reaction crash unfolded on State Road 60. 4 people inside a Chevrolet Equinox were killed.
Given the line of work that he was in, he doesn't blame himself. He just maybe blames the fact that he couldn't save everyone. And he wasn't in the state to save everyone. Owings is a veteran who served 24 years in the Navy, including time with SEAL Team 6 before retiring in 2018. Following the crash, Owings underwent surgery. Throughout the 2 exploratory surgeries, and after the second one was a success, they went ahead and started removing the tubes, and he woke up the next day and he was very alert.
The crash happened on February 4th, one of the toughest anniversary dates for his family. His wife says her husband usually stays home that day, but instead went to work.
He was on a mission, and there were a lot of his teammates that were killed, and he performed a very courageous act and was awarded a Silver Star. It was the first time he'd probably left in 5 years on that day. So we say he's not going to leave on that day anymore.
His wife tells us he will undergo another surgery tomorrow on his wrist and is expected to spend the next couple of days in the hospital. Reporting in Osceola, I'm Georgia MacArthur, 8 on your side.
We are learning some new details tonight about a deadly plane crash involving an aircraft that belonged to the Venice-based missionary aviation group Agape.
The organization is grieving the loss of 2 pilots. The plane crashed early Friday morning in Haiti. News Channel 8's Alessandra Young has the update for us tonight.
Agape tells me they have recovered the bodies of their 2 pilots, and their #1 goal is working towards returning them both home.
We work with about 45 different organizations.
I also talked with Jonathan Egler, who is the CEO of Mission Safety International, a nonprofit mission organization that is dedicated to promoting safety and security in missionary aviation.
Hold them in your prayers. The team is really devastated, and I plan to be down there in Venice on Saturday and hopefully be helping them a little bit look over some of the data that they've been able to collect and try to work through this process.
He tells me Agape is one of the around 45 organizations MSI works with.
They asked MSI to come in as like a consultant, and we have done a number of safety audits for them, just like we have with most of our members.
He says Agape follows a lot of the same protocols that any other aviation organization would. MSI does not provide daily oversight of Agape's organization, but they look over policies and procedures when they do a safety audit. Now, one of the questions going unanswered is if an investigation will be conducted.
The basic premise here is that the country where it occurs is the one responsible to conduct an investigation. In this case, we don't know that will occur.
Egler says an investigation by NTSB or FAA cannot be done without being specifically invited by the country of Haiti.
Every operator, like Agape Flights, has a right to do their own investigation, but they can't interfere in any way with the official one.
He says everyone needs to keep in mind that we really have no idea what happened here, and it could be a dozen different things that led to this crash, many things out of the organization's control.
This is a wrenching experience to have to go through losing your friends and colleagues, and I know that they've shut down flight operations for the time being.
Agape says out of respect of both of the families, they will not be releasing the names of the pilots at this time. In Tampa, I'm Alessandra Young, 8 on your side.
A Riverview man has been without his vehicle since early November. It was repossessed from his driveway, even though he never missed a single payment.
Turns out a judge granted the seizure after a 14-year-old landlord-tenant case was quietly reopened. And get this, even though there was a judgment against the man in 2012, court records show he was never notified. 8 on your side consumer investigator Shannon Bankin joins us now in studio with this wild story.
Jen, Josh, not knowing about the lawsuit and then losing the vehicle all these years later was unusual enough. But what I found out about the plaintiff was shocking to even some lawyers involved in the case. Charles Songer's nightmares started in November when his wife came home from work.
She says, oh, you're home. I'm like, of course I'm home. She goes, well, where's your vehicle? And so it's outside. I thought she was joking with me. I go outside and check and my vehicle's gone.
He made call after call, his lender, law enforcement, and a tow company that led to a call with a Lutz attorney, Jennifer Ann Garner, who was handling a court case that had been reopened in November 2025. That's when Songer says he heard for the first time that he and a roommate had been sued in 2012 by their landlord in Tallahassee. His red 2021 Chevy Tahoe was repossessed to satisfy a $9,052 judgment in that lawsuit.
That's a lot of rent that they're claiming wasn't paid.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you're saying that's not true?
It's definitely not true, no. Again, the rental claim was even after the lease was up. And so that's what I wasn't understanding is how did I satisfy a lease, but you're claiming for after the lease was up.
Songer's attorney points to court documents that show no service, indicating Songer was never notified about the lawsuit. And there's another issue. The original 2012 eviction claims rent wasn't paid from June 2011 to January 2012, but the lease attached to that suit shows terms from February 2010 to February 2011. 4 months before rent was allegedly owed. Songer says he didn't even live there during the dates in question.
The due process was missed here. I didn't have the chance to even, I would have went to court that day, obviously, and said, hey, we have an issue with her claim, and I'll be able to defend myself, but I haven't had that opportunity until my vehicle was stolen.
Songer's attorney says lack of service should be enough to get the truck back, but time is critical. So I tried to contact the plaintiff, the landlord listed in the case, Amber Carlberg. I reached her parents. We were all in for a shock. Her parents tell me she died from COVID in 2021. They call this situation ridiculous and want to know how their late daughter could still be named as a plaintiff, and if the truck is sold, where would the money go? I reached the lawyer handling the case. In the name of the plaintiff, the landlord, she declined to answer my questions. However, Songer's attorney tells me she agrees that there was a lack of service in the original lawsuit and now agrees to give the truck back. Those details, though, are still being worked out. I will stay on this until Mr. Songer has his truck back.
I thought the plot twist was that he didn't even live in the apartment at the time of this so-called judgment or the lawsuit, but the mic drop is that the plaintiff is deceased. How does this even happen, and what happens to the law? I have so many questions.
There are so many questions. With every phone call on this story, I discovered something else. Songer's attorney tells me that he is moving to throw out this judgment from 2012, and it is worth noting that is something the landlord's parents tell me they also support. And as for the issue of the plaintiff who died in 2021, law experts tell me there are several issues here. An attorney cannot represent a dead person, and this case is not in the name of an estate. I'm continuing to look into how this happened.
There sounds like so much more to this story. Okay, keep peeling back the layers. I'm eager for the update.
Residents in a Hernando County neighborhood are sounding an alarm about a neighbor's security setup.
The camera mounted on a tall pole triggers this. That siren is going off sometimes multiple times a day in the Ridge Manor neighborhood off Westlake Boulevard. News Channel 8's Georgia MacArthur spoke to neighbors.
This is a seemingly quiet neighborhood, but residents say their peace is often disrupted by the alarm system. They say it's been going on for years, and now they're fed up. Neighbors in Ridge Manor say a security camera and alarm system mounted on a 10-foot pole has become a daily nuisance. The setup faces a nearby back porch, and when the alarm goes off, people living across the street say it's impossible to ignore.
It's loud enough that when my neighbors go by, they stop and they say to me, "How can you stand that?"
Jean Murray is 80 years old, retired, and when she says she first heard the sound, she thought something was wrong.
Oh my gosh, somebody's hurt. like I should get up and maybe throw some clothes on if it's at night and race over and see if people are okay.
Video shared with 8 on Your Side shows the camera sounding off. The video has now gotten more than 1.3 million views on TikTok. The neighbor who owns the alarm camera system also declined to go on camera, but told us it's there for security reasons. At one point, he even played the alarm sound for us. We reached out to the Hernando County Sheriff's Office and are still waiting to hear whether the setup violates any local ordinances or noise rules. But in the meantime,
because they can, because they get away with it, because the sheriff's patrol don't seem to think it's important.
Neighbors say they just want the alarm to stop so they can get back to enjoying their homes. Reporting in Hernando County, I'm Georgia MacArthur, 8 on Your Side.